Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are recapping our Week 4 win against the Los Angeles Rams. If you are new, please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those things. If you are returning, welcome back, Better Bears fan, and also please share this around, get the conversation started, helps the channel grow. All right. We're not going to talk too long. I know I say it all the time, but we won't talk too long. I have a film session I want to do, and then I got all types of other stuff. So, as I mentioned before, for those people who are been around, not every week I'll be in town. Most weeks I'll be kind of same routine. I'll be in the community, giving my thoughts throughout the game. You'll have a recap right after the game, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, some weeks it's going to be a little different. So I was out of town. Actually in Chicago. And let me say this before I get to the game. I needed that. That was a good like wake up call. Like, obviously I know how fans are, especially a lot of people online. We talk about it all the time, but it felt good. I wouldn't say it felt good, but it was interesting and it was very eye-opening to be in the midst of a crowd, like, of Bears fans during a Bears game. And I specifically wanted to do that just because I was up there. I said I'm going to stick around, watch the game in the city. Went to two nice, fine establishments, sporting places, and they were filled with Bears fans. And just to see the ebb and flow of each person, to see the fans ebb and flow with each little second of the game, it just reminded me, like, it was a good reminder again, like, some of these people you interact with, this is who they are. And hey, love the Bears, that brings us together, but they don't know football. That's don't. I mean, you got people like yelling, complaining about every single thing up until the play is over. Then it's like, oh, good job, yeah, and they start cheering and clapping, and it's like, bro, like, I don't know. It's just some of these fans, I think it's just an experience. It's the highs and lows of watching the team. There's not a lot of real thought going on. I mean, there's a lot of people yelling, hey, we should do this. Oh, Caleb, get rid of it. I hear that the dude next to me was yelling that, hey, get rid of it. And then, show the replay, like the full, like, down the field, and be like, oh, he didn't do it because of this and this. He was like, oh yeah, well, still get rid of it, should have ripped it. And I just like, these people I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's all fandom. That's just not Bears fans, but it was good to be out there. So anyway, let's get to this game. Not a ton to talk about that we haven't talked about before. Not a pretty game. I don't know, I wouldn't say it was ugly necessary. But it was a bit of a grinded out game. So the things that kind of stand out to me, big picture, number one, with the defense. The defense definitely was more vulnerable than I've seen them look in the last, 10 games, maybe more than that. Just because and maybe we'll do the film session, I don't know, but the defense or the offense from the Rams just got a lot of movement on us, especially in the front seven. And typically, we're a team that stops you with our front seven. Mostly our front six. Kyler, not that he's, bad, but he's not a linebacker or anything. But TJ and Edmonds cover so much ground, and our defensive tackles are usually really good at holding the point of attack, that we usually take care of the run with our front six. And they were getting so much movement on us, just really well disciplined and coached. Even though they weren't great, there's a lot of backups, but still they were good enough to get movement in the zone game, where I think, if I had to guess without seeing the film, because we have guys that are so much bully ball, especially in the middle of the D-line, that once they had to start moving laterally, that really kind of got them. Now, typically, as I've said before, we saw the Titans do it, saw the Packers do it to us twice last year. We're a heavy flow defense. So whether or not I'm in front of you as a blocker, or if you're just beating me to the point, you're flowing heavy. And in a zone, that should be one of the beauty of it, is that even if you beat me to the point you flow heavy, that's now creating another opportunity on the cutback. And we saw Kyron get that a lot because we were a heavy flow team, which is, you know, as a defense, when you're playing a heavy zone, you want knockback, you want penetration more so than you want to just flow and run to the ball. That's typically why, because the cutback then opens up, and that's what we saw. And so obviously with McVay, we know that once they get movement in the run, they want to do everything else off of that. So with their run game being pretty decent, they were able to get a lot off play action. Really what it came down to was us getting pressure, manufacturing pressure, really. Obviously the front four not getting a lot of pressure, and this was the first game where it really reared its ugly head. And I'm sure some people were like, no, we disrupted, we got a strip sack and all that. But if you really look at it, those times when we rushed forward, Stafford had all day, and that's when he was cutting us up. Stafford had a pretty good day, but it was those times where we either had a nice blitz or a nice game going that was able to get to Stafford and cause him to make some big key mistakes, because, you know, it's a lot of cliches in the game, and they're all cliches because they're true. When you start taking field goals instead of touchdowns, especially in a game where you don't have a lot of possessions, that's a recipe to lose. So the fumble on the strip sack, obviously the interception to end the game, stuff like that, those big moments really was the difference for the defense. But it did show, again, that lack of pass rush outside of Sweat, and it showed that the run defense can be had, because I still think we're one of the top guys, but that run defense can be had in certain schemes. So then offensively, so the funny thing is, a lot of people are talking about Swift in the run game, and I'm not taking nothing away from Swift, but I could give you a quick example that just happened to show you our run game isn't as fixed as some people might think. So I went to the film to set it up, because I was thinking like, yeah, let's look at the run game like everybody else. We had one run over 10 yards, just one, the entire game. And that kind of shocked me. So the one run was obviously Swift's big run for the touchdown. That's 36 yard run, excuse me. So if you take that run away, which of course people are like, well, you can't, you know, it's an explosive. Yes. The thing is, if you take that run away, that's one carry, right? So if you take away 36 yards and one carry and average out the rest, Swift was under 4 yards per carry again. He was 3.8, so he was close, but he was underneath that 4-point yard mark again. And then obviously you had Johnson and Caleb that gave you a couple more yards. But overall, our run game minus that explosive wasn't that great. Now, the opposite side of that is we only had, I think, we had one play. One or two, I'm sorry, I can't remember. I think it was one or two that were not a run stuff, that were run stuff. So run stuff is, I'm assuming by NFL Next Gen Stats, a negative run play. We only had two of those. And so that's great. So that shows you, like, again, if I was to sit here and watch the film, we're going to watch a 2-yard gain, a 3-yard gain, a 4-yard gain, a 2-yard gain. Not a lot of stuff that people think is sexy or whatever, but you look at the total numbers at the end of the game and everybody's cheering, because really that explosive, but also you had continuous movement. And we had 28 carries, and I didn't look previous games. I probably could have easily looked. But I would venture to say that's more carries than we have before. Now, all that has to get wrapped up into the fact the Rams defense is not that good. Like, I know some people have been praising them, but you like what Fisk and you like what Verse are doing as rookies. But overall, obviously, Aaron Donald's gone. You traded away an outstanding linebacker who was your only real legit linebacker. And then the secondary is just kind of piecemeal together, a lot of young players. So, yeah, that defense isn't great. We had more success running the ball, but I don't think that's a good measurement stick in terms of our running. But that's been a big conversation, is that, and again, I asked because I continue to hear people say it. Finally, we're running. We're not making Caleb throw all the time. And so I asked again, what is the bar? Because if this is the bar, that's fine with me, but people need to understand what the bar is. And what I mean by that is, if you are on the field, since everybody's an expert, if you're on the field as the coach, how many run plays are you taking for negative yards, for less than 3 yards, less than 5 yards, before you decide to shift your philosophy? What is the bar? So if fans are saying, hey, run it 25 to 30 times a game, no matter what, we want the attempts and we'll live with the yards. Okay, if that's what we're saying, I'll understand that. But just to, again, play devil's advocate, when you try to come at Shane Waldron, even though I have a lot against Shane Waldron, that's more, whatever. But just to come to his defense a little, it's like, what is the bar for that? Because everyone keeps saying we don't run it the first 3 games. And again, I'm like, we're not getting any yards. And I'm not saying abandon it completely. Absolutely not. I do agree that some things should have been changed. But for me, if you run the ball in a variety of ways, you're going to the right. I don't know how many times you can schematically set it up to go to the right side and still not get yards. But let's just say you're setting it all up and you're still not getting yards. I don't know how many times people want us to do that before you say, okay, this game, we probably going to pass a little more. I mean, you look at, the Ravens, most games, but the first 2 games compared to the last 2, Lamar's barely throwing 20 times. Zay Flowers had 10 yards last night and a blowout win. So it's like some games it's just not going to be there for whether it's pass, run, whatever, play action, whatever. So that's that. Caleb, man, same things. The O-line doesn't help, but he's still holding on to the ball too long. Even like I see like kind of, I would say mostly praise for how he's standing in the dirty pockets and making throws, which is fine on a confidence and a, grit level. But on a ball security level, it bothers me. Like, and again, it's hard because obviously there's plays where Caleb does the most to get out of the pocket and make a play. And you don't want that, but you also don't want the other extreme where he's just standing in, I wouldn't say oblivious, but he's just standing in the pocket too close for comfort because he ain't 6'6". Like, there's going to be plenty of plays, I would say, over the course of this season. And we all know what I'm talking about. When Caleb stands in that pocket, back to front with all of the rest of the linemen, he's going to get the ball knocked out of his hand. He's going to get it tipped and get it intercepted. And so I would like for that timing to just be a little more. And that's just, he's a playmaker. He's a gunslinger. So I think I'm very comfortable in saying he's holding on to it because he wants to make a play. And so the issue is he's holding on to it too long at times, because again, people will say, no, it's the O-line. It's both at different times. And so the Caleb piece is he's got to be more decisive. He's got to pull that cord a little more quickly. And the deep ball accuracies, been talking about that all year. Everybody's bringing it up. And as I said in the community, it's a double negative because obviously you don't want to miss plays and have a quarterback with bad deep ball accuracy. But the other part is our personnel sets us up to have 1-on-1 shots multiple times a game. You think about the number And maybe I don't want to pull up the plays because I don't want to look at them. But the number of plays we've had over these first 4 weeks, where mostly a doomsday, a lot of times DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, I'm sure. Actually, no, Keenan had one too first week, but multiple shots. And it's only been 4 weeks. So for a team to have a one-on-one go route, and I don't mean like a one-on-one, hitch and break a tackle or slant that goes 80. I mean a one-on-one go route, vertical route, whatever, double move, vertical, post. To have a one-on-one shot twice a game, that's not the average. So I think that's a huge part of our offense that we're missing, especially, and I hope people realize, whether you just watch the Bears or you watch the league in general, like a lot of these teams, especially with offenses not clicking, a lot of these teams are playing ball control football. When you don't have a lot of possessions, each possession matters more. Each point matters more. As I keep telling y'all, it's a game of inches and seconds. And I mean that. You have limited time, limited space. So if you make a score or even a big gain on one play, two plays a game, if one of those ends up a touchdown, whatever, that literally could be the game. That could be the deciding factor. So it is disappointing he's missing those, but he is getting better. I think that's the national narrative, and I think that's the narrative locally. He is getting better each game. Now, do I expect that? No. Look, Pat Mahomes, goated. I don't mean he's the GOAT, but goated in terms of resume, in terms of what he's done. He's regressing. I don't even know what year this is for him, year whatever. He's regressing. Clearly regressing. And that, again, no, as I keep saying, it's not Madden. You don't have a overall that's stagnant every week. Depending on a lot of things that can change. And so, do I mean Pat's not going to be as good as he was? No, this ain't narrative TV sports media. What I'm saying is it's possible to have a stretch where you're regressing, you're having bad play. He's off to a bad start. We ain't talking lack of weapons. We talking about bad decision making, bad accuracy. If Pat Mahomes could go through that, I'm not about to sit here and say Caleb's going to always be better each week this year, but he so far in the first 4 weeks has been a little better each time. So that's him. Torrey Taylor, our punter, absolute weapon. I don't think there's much to say about that. You saw what he did, and this is how I knew. And it wasn't a ton of footage in Hard Knocks, but the little footage we got, coupled with the coaches and players kind of talking about, and front office, they were talking about the spins he had, and like all the technical stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I care or know a lot about it. That's not my area of expertise. But, they tell you the point of all that is it's going to cause the ball to be playable, to, whatever. And that's what you saw in Hard Knocks, and that's what we're seeing now. And again, for the people that were scoffing, laughing, like, oh, we don't need to flip the field, or how much does it cost to flip the field? Any people in Chicago or in that area, Yurko endlessly made fun of that pick. Absolute weapon. To be honest, he probably won us the game. Because as much as we were able to kind of go back and forth with the Rams in Stafford, the thing is, those long fields allowed us to do some of the things that we did. Whether it was having them come up short in the red zone and sticking with 3, or whether it was us getting a big play like the last play and causing a turnover. A lot of that has to do with that field position. And again, when it comes in terms of time, you think about it. If you not even if you shank the punt, if you just have a normal punt, and it's like it's about a little over a minute left in the game, and they got to go down the field to win. And they start at their 40 or something. That's a completely different game than them starting inside their 20. And so those things, it's just absolutely beautiful. Even if you don't like special teams, it's beautiful. You have to think, especially with a punter like this, you have to think of these guys as an extension of the defense, because they play complementary. We always hear complementary football. The special teams and defense play complementary real close. And so when he sets us up like that, that's an absolute weapon. And I was happy draft day. Even though I didn't know all the things I know about him now, I just knew that said, hey, this is an elite punter. I'm like, yeah, we could always use that, because you had O'Donnell, I think it was, out of Miami. And we had him for a while, and I was excited because he had so much power, but nowhere near the type of accuracy and touch like this. I mean, there's not many punters that have this. So I'll be interested to see if Pat McAfee talks about him. But anyway, that's it for me. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up. Oh, and then I guess I should say, before I sign off, offensive line, people want to talk about that. We can look at it. We can go to the film. We can look at it. Like I said, the run plays is probably not what people think it is, outside of the one big run. And that was really because of Swift making a great play to hurdle that guy. But outside of that, wasn't really that. We could look at pass pro though if we need to. But overall, man, I don't think the offensive line is that much different. And I say this all the time. I haven't said it this year. Who you play matters. And so for people, whether it's the Bears or anybody else, to have one narrative or one thought process, go into the next game and completely change your thought process, even though you know the opponent is not good at that, it blows my mind. And I see it obviously in sports media, they just dumb. So I see it all the time, but fans follow that narrative too. And so I can't buy into that yet. I don't think 1 week the offensive line all of a sudden has great technique and everything. I don't think that is possible. And number two, the Rams is not a good test for that. So that's my thoughts, but I just want to add that in. So yeah, get the conversation started, and remember, stay up and bear down.